During the research stage of my film, at the start, I set out researching the conventions and forms of sci-fi films, my initial chosen genre, then used it to base the pre-production of my film opening on. However, when it came to the production and post-production stage of the film, I felt the idea of producing a pure sci-fi would not outcome very well, and so further added a subgenre to the product, action, making it a hybridization, which I feel is the first form of my film to stick to real media products. As in 1999 film theorist Altman argued, there is no such thing as pure genre anymore. Genre is progressive, and in that it will always change, expressing how genres are now mixed together in hybridization to meet the audience's growing expectations. And so by adding action to my film, not only increases its appeal and range to the audience, but also its likelihood to succeed as a genuine feature film. So I then went out researching the action genre, looking at its technical elements as I did for sci-fi, and then used it to grow the product. Some of the obvious conventions I used to meet the sci-fi expectations included futuristic technologies such as the holograms, laser guns, space and planners, and ultimately the UFO, firmly setting the sci-fi genre in place for the audience, and these conventions I use a range of sci-fi films. Additionally, when choosing my location, I felt for the HQ a secret technological location should be used, and so chose this basement. The pipework running through the location adds a mechanical feel, and the silver colour adds a technological feel to the location, and so when used with the low-key lighting makes the location ideal. And this location is similar to other sci-fi and action films, including the various Star Wars ship interiors, the interstellar ship interior, and the volcano base from James Bond's Spectre. I was also careful when choosing my fonts for the product. For using the font for one of the actors' names, I chose a font called Terminal, which is similar to what they use in Microsoft's Notepad, and I used it for its technological appeal to the target audience. Furthermore, for the title of the film, I tried to use a similar jump effect, as in the opening of Dread. Here they had the title Break Through into the Camera. When reviewing my film, I felt this effect would ruin the atmosphere of the ending shots of the UFO, and so had the title fade in using a stroke effect on each letter, and then had the eye of the alien burst through the letter D to add the jump effect to my film, which is a popular convention in action films. Additionally, I had several ideas for the title of the film, such as Endangered and Found Hope. However, I narrowed it down to Endangered Encounter, as seen in the script, but eventually changed it to just Encounter during the post-production stage of my film, as I felt it would be more to the point but still keeps the audience in guessing on what the characters will encounter, initially the UFO, but it develops over the film. However, if I was going to continue with the film, I think I would go back to the title Endangered Encounter, as it would introduce the idea of social commentary. Such as in 2008's WALL-E, the social commentary in the film can be seen to address the audience in topics such as obesity and our blindness to media letting technology take over us. In the same way, it aims to have the film's narrative to address the audience in ideas such as it's the humans in the film that are causing the aliens to stay away, and causing them to be endangered from Earth. In the same way, to address society's attitude to global warming, etc., in killing off today's wildlife, for example. Also in the pre-production, I said how I wanted to use a 13-hour clock in the scene to further create the idea of being in the future, where the time is possibly different. However, in post-production, I decided not to go with this prop, as I felt it could suggest to the audience that the film is not based on Earth, and possibly disengage some of the audience. Furthermore, I did not want the technological feel of the film to take over and distract from the subgenre of action, and so decided not to go with other possible conventions, e.g. teleportation and hover vehicles, which I could have used for the transportation of the dock and mic, challenging the technological conventions of sci-fi films, as I felt the subgenre of action needed to be seen and acknowledged, and so instead use a typical car, which on a sub-note I chose it to be blue for the connotations of justice, intelligence and wisdom, which all could be seen as character traits for the dock, and so explains its character a bit more to the audience, which is another example of show don't tell, which is a popular technique used in many films. When utilising the action forms and conventions of the film, I carefully chose the music for the opening, using stems from a track brought online, and then used Adobe Audition to mix the layers and form the composition. I found this fast-paced orchestral music was another key convention of action films when doing the research in my pre-production. For example, Tom Holkenberg's score for Mad Max Fury Road extensively uses violins and other string instruments and kettle drums. Another example is Danny Elfman's Batman score, which is again very orchestral and extensively using brass strings and percussion instruments to build its layers and engage its audience within its fast-paced action scene. And so ultimately, from researching of this action music conventions, I found the fast-paced orchestral music with heavy use of violins, brass and percussion is really engaging for the audience, which is why I chose this piece for the opening. Finally, for the music conventions, I also used the idea of repeating motifs that help drawing the audience to the film with a sense of familiarity. Furthermore, sci-fi films are spectacular spectacle fiction, and much like action, are very special effects heavy, whether practical or digital, which is used to engage their target audiences. As seen in my product, where the holograms and UFO video effect are key to the opening, making a spectacular spectacle which can't be achieved/seen in real life in the present day. I also use certain camera work and editing in my film. For example, during my action research, I found quick cuts and fast movements in certain scenes, e.g. chase-like sequences. However, I also found long sweeping movements following the action around was also common, which I found a bit odd. This form can be seen in films such as 1997 sci-fi action Contact, 2015 Mad Max Fury Road, and 2009 Avatar.
27 the second we're there! And leave the yellow frequency where it is! Stay on it, fish, don't let it get away! If you lose it, just scan the band! Run every frequency you can think of!
Also for my pre-production, I looked at action comedy Hot Fuzz and liked the form where there were subtle and quick white movement effects where different angles of Angel, the main character, are switched between swiftly as he walks down the corridor. I liked the feel of this transition and developed it within my opening, and at some points had the wipes match in time with the music to help support the quick action pacing, which I also found to be a key form in some action films and sequences. I also used the necessary uses of work in my film, e.g. the 180-degree rule, match on action, cutaways, transitions e.g. cuts, dissolves, fade to wipes, and I also use other transitions like morph cuts and wipes and more. Fashion is of a cyclic nature, however I chose my actors to wear today's fashion but within the future of the film, so that the audience can relate to my product and so challenging this form and conventions. Where sci-fi films usually have the actors wearing more futuristic technologies. However, the hologram seen in Mike's hand can be seen as a costume/prop, and so it builds on the sci-fi genre within the costume realm. Overall, to conclude, I have taken my research of both action and sci-fi films respectively and have used them and developed, and sometimes not used, the conventions and forms I have seen in them. And I have briefly touched on some of the following: futuristic technologies and lighting, fast-paced orchestral music, narrative, action and sci-fi props, all the necessary rules in media to keep a film professional looking and continuity free, costumes, etc. Thank you.